I'm Tom Kolb, and this is the Fender Stratocaster, the most popular and imitated electric guitar in history. This versatile instrument can be heard in just about any style of music, from rock, blues, country, jazz, metal, funk, new age, to reggae. In the words of Eric Clapton, it's just about as being close to perfect as any guitar could be. In 1954, Leo Fender debuted the Fender Stratocaster guitar, and with few exceptions, that model is the same as the standard model today. Let's take a look at the headstock. The headstock on the Stratocaster was the first time the world saw what was to become the classic headstock for Fender. With its 6 inline tuners, makes it a cinch to know what string you're on when you're tuning. String tree that guides the E and the B, a nice angle over the nut. The original Stratocaster had a one-piece maple neck, later to become a neck like this, a maple neck with a slab rosewood fretboard that goes over the neck, and the dots, position markers, 2 at the 12th fret, and the neck bolts on with 4 bolts here. Make it very easy to take the neck off if you need to make adjustments to the truss rod, or it could be, you can get to it here, the truss rod adjustment, which curves the neck to the player's desire. You can have the flat neck, more curvature, more relief up in this area. It's a good idea to try that by yourself. Take it to a good repairman and he'll fix it for you. Now the body of the Stratocaster. Leo Fender was known for talking to the musicians of the time and getting their desires and their complaints about current models of his and other people's guitars to get in ideas for new designs. One common one from a lot of players was that when they sat down for long recording sessions, the body of the guitar would dig into their ribs. So the famous contour body, the wood was cut in to give relief for the player's body, for comfort there while sitting or even standing. And also in the front, it's cut back at a slant to allow the arm to comfortably rest, because that was another complaint the players had, was it would dig in, other guitars would dig in right here on the arm. It's very, very comfortable, and it has remained in this shape ever since 1954. At the time, certainly one of the most revolutionary things about the guitar was the synchronized tremolo system, as what it was called. It's actually a vibrato system, but it was developed in direct competition for other guitars with systems that were known to go out of tune. One very popular system was the Bigsby vibrato, and what that did was it sent the strings over the bridge, and that caused a lot of tuning problems. So what the people at Fender did was they developed a system that would move the entire bridge. Now I just happen to have one that's out of the guitar. A little bit easier to explain what goes on here. The bridge right here is attached to a counterbalance that passes through the body, and underneath run 5 springs that are attached to the body here for the tension that way. This part of the system would be screwed in with 6 screws right into the body, so that's firm. And when it's brought down or up, course, the springs in the back will return it to pitch in tune. It can be even brought back. With other guitars at the time, it'd be way out of tune by the time you got back to it. Another first for the Stratocaster was the incorporation of six string saddles. At the time, the competition had maybe just an entire one-piece bridge, or maybe 3 strings would have to share, or 2. But this was better because it allowed the player to adjust not only the height of each string for the action, because some people like higher action, some people like lower, but also you could adjust the intonation of each string, which was probably the most important part. And that's done by screwing the screws either clockwise or counterclockwise, thus bringing the saddle forwards or back. And you could do that by playing open high E, and either playing a harmonic at the 12th fret or simply fretting the 12th fret. And that, of course, should be the same pitch, an octave higher. And if it's, say, for instance, sharp, then you would want to lengthen the string, and that's done by screwing clockwise in, thus bringing the saddle back. And if it was flat, then you'd want to shorten the length of the string, and that, of course, is done by counterclockwise, bringing the saddle forward. And you could play a D chord open, and then move the triad up to the 14th fret, and that's the desired effect, that it's in tune with itself down here, not sounding like this. That'd be horrible. So intonation on each string was fantastic development.
What I do here at Fender is I'm a tuner tester. I do technical inspection and I do some setup on the guitar, mostly to create a good feel for the instrument before it gets to the customers.
Just imagine yourself back in the 50s and opening up the brand new Fender catalog and seeing the Stratocaster advertised. I bet your eyes would go right to this area. 3 pickups, because at the time, most other guitars either had 1 or 2, so that was certainly revolutionary. The pickups that were made with Alnico 5 magnetic pole pieces, and they were staggered at different heights because different strings vibrate louder than others. And over the years, as string gauges became lighter, the pole pieces have been built more flush to the pickup. The rhythm pickup, known as the neck pickup also, is in a special spot. It's like a magical place. Imagine the 12th fret, where you get that harmonic. Imagine a 24th fret, and you can play another harmonic here, right above the pickup, where the 24th fret area would be. And that probably has something to do with the magical tone of that pickup. The selector switch is a 3-way selector switch. In this position, it activates the pickup we're talking about right now. Bring it back to the middle position, and of course, logically, it activates the middle pickup. A little bit brighter sound than the warmer neck. And of course, all the way down would activate the bridge pickup, or the rear pickup, lead pickup, also known as, and that's the brightest one. And there's some magical settings that supposedly weren't intentionally developed, but found by players between the pickups. If you notch the selector switch, you'll activate these 2 pickups, creating a nasal sounding sort of out of phase sound. And likewise, if you get it between the rhythm and the middle pickup, you get a similar funky sound activating these two pickups. Now in the 50s, that was, accidentally discovered, but of course eventually Fender created the 5-way switch, so you could easily get those settings. Leo Fender was known for being highly interested in the maintenance of instruments, sometimes even more than the cosmetic appeal. If you look at the pickguard, notice that the controls, the pickups, and the selector switch are all attached to it. So by removing the screws in the pickguard and, of course, the strings, the whole main part of the control cavity can be lifted out for easy servicing. Last of all, a subtle development was the jack receptacle. It's on top. You could see it very easily. You don't have to go fishing down here for it. And there we have what makes up the classic Fender Stratocaster guitar. And as I said, little change to this day since 1954. Before we go any further, let's get in tune. Here's a high E. Here's B, second string. G, third string. D, fourth string. A, fifth string. And low E, sixth string. Some things just naturally go together. Hand in a glove, Jimi Hendrix and the Fender Stratocaster guitar. When I think about Jimi Hendrix, I think like a lot of people, I get images in my mind of him setting his guitar on fire at Monterey, crazy stage antics, loud feedback, just amazing guitar playing, way ahead of his time. One of my favorite things about Jimi was his rhythm playing on the neck pickup. It's evident on songs like Wind Cries Mary, Little Wing, and Hendrix used a lot in the studios for his rhythm playing, the Fender Twin Reverb. Just a perfect match. What I liked, he would take like basic chords, like an F here at the 8th fret, and take the chord tones of the chord and add as passing colors the notes of F major scale. Wherever you could play an F chord, like here or here. And another place which is good for this style is in minor keys or minor chords. Take an A minor chord at the 5th fret. And those are the chord tones, and add to it the notes of the natural minor scale. In double stop form. And sliding around up the neck. I'm going to play the track and demonstrate some of these techniques right now. Now that chord progression we just played just has some basic chords, E minor, G, and A minor. And in that style of Hendrix, take like an open E minor chord. If you look for any kind of shape of E minor up the neck, and add as color the chord tones, or actually the scale tones in that chord. And the open strings. Get lots of stuff for E minor. And this pickup just brings out those rich, sparkly tones, like bell-like to me. G. G so much like E minor anyway. G major is relative to E minor. Got a lot of the same choices. And A minor, of course, which I talked about a few minutes ago. So any place you can find a chord shape of the chord you're on. We'll add to that chord, and that's in the style. And Hendrix's soloing, I employed that technique a lot too, like for instance, spots of Wind Cries Mary. The solo break has a lot of things to do with F major. And F major pentatonics. And even just real simple ideas like taking the G chord that happens and making it a sus. G6, G sus, back to G. G add 9, back to G. Mix in some blues. And you have pretty much a lot of the basic aspects of that style. Boy, another artist famous for this neck pickup, Stevie Ray Vaughan. When he came out in 1984, I believe it was, boy, suddenly everybody wanted a Stratocaster. That Pride and Joy, basically a 12-bar blues in E. Just that sound with a bit of grit on the amp, just a little bit of overdrive. And that neck pickup sound, hitting those strings real hard. Big old chord with bass line type movement. Just a really, really big sound for that rhythm playing, and like something like E7 sharp 9 to an A7 type groove. Boy, when he just picked that low E, did the chords, this big, round, gutsy sound, just something about the position of that pickup, I think, magical. I'm going to play the track now in a 12-bar blues in E and emulate some of my favorite aspects of this playing. Boy, when Stevie would hit that low E at the end of a lot of songs, just to yank it out of his fitting almost. Sounded great. And something about the way the Strat is, strings being closer to the pickguard or something, just makes it really able to dig in, and something about that contour body thing happening right here. I was doing a lot of well, blues scale ideas for single notes like he did. Incidentally, there's a booklet that goes along with this with diagrams and tablature for a lot of these examples I'm showing. If I go too fast, you can go back and see, view the tape again or refer to the booklet. Anyway, the E blues. And at the 12th fret. And double stops you do a lot. And high E with notes on the second string. And little two-note chords up the second and third string. With the high E open, ringing out. And occasionally, since it was a power trio, a lot of big chords here and there. And the 13 chord, the 12th fret, E13, and that sharp 9. Now this sound can be emulated on any stock Fender Stratocaster guitar, but there's a signature model, Stevie Ray Vaughan model that Fender makes, if you're interested. Just great for this. Well, Eric Johnson, another amazing, amazing player, comes to mind in this neck pickup. Particularly his voicings of chords, sort of like the one I just played. Guess that's sort of like an E minor 11 chord there. With just that slap echo and nice chorus, a little bit of chorus, and the gorgeous reverb he uses. Wonderful combination. His use of triads with hammer-ons like that. And partial chords, like simple chords like a C chord, where you might play. He plays more spread apart, just really nice sound. And jazz chords, actually, a lot of influence from, I would say, like Wes Montgomery. I've heard Eric do sounds like thumb brushed strokes of octaves. And lots of ways you can play octaves. Probably the easiest way is take a D at the 5th fret on the 5th string, and the octave above that would be D on the 3rd string, 7th fret. But the hard part about that is muting the strings in between. In this case, the D open. If you move it around, well, that's kind of a cool sound. But when you just want the octave, you have to mute it. And that thumb brush stroke just adds a sort of mellowness to it. And then the octave shape on the 4th and 2nd string. 3rd and 1st, and even 4th and 1st, which is harder to mute those strings in between. Really comes in handy. And also taking a, well, like a C6 sound. It's a standard C6 shape, but what Eric would probably do is opt for more spacing in between the chord tones, root, the 6, and the third of the chord up there. Dick Dale. Safaris. From England, Hank Marvin and the Shadows in the Venture sound. Boy, with that reverb in the back pickup, the way it's positioned, incidentally, so you don't get too much of the low strings, but when you get the right hand palm right back in the bridge, you get that dead sound. Beach Boys rhythm. With a mixture of this Fender Stratocaster, that lead pickup, the clean sounding Fender amps with that reverb, great sound. A lot of those artists in those days were just using the blues scale, pentatonics actually. But it's a much thinner sound with that clean sound with the reverb, and it's springy sounding. And the rhythm developed from the Chuck Berry style, Johnny B. Good. Yeah, that reverb, it was the gateway to effects, which was so prevalent in the late 60s in the psychedelic era. Add to the lead pickup of the Strat, souped up distortion, brought out heavily in the late 60s and since, echo, and you had the beginnings of the stylings of David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. Take, for instance, the song Money. In one of the solo breaks, David's using B minor pentatonic. But using real strong bends. With a nice vibrato. And sometimes double bend, like bend to one note and then bend again, come back and bend again. Like, for instance, so that's 2 whole steps from the A, whole step to B, way up to the C sharp. Ritchie Blackmore with the band Deep Purple. Remember those inverted power chords, I call them? If you take a G power chord at the 3rd fret, you get the root on the 6th string, and the 5th in the middle, and root on top. If you take out the root, you have the 5th, and then the root. Kind of a nice alternative instead of. Sometimes it gets a little bit too thick with all that distortion. I remember him doing a lot of pull-offs to open strings. I think that's from stuff from Highway Star. Go up and down the neck, or up and down the on the strings. It's like A minor pentatonic, and pulling off to open strings. And his heavy use of the Aeolian mode, or the natural minor scale. In A, it would be here. Which brings to mind another fantastic guitarist, Yngwie Malmsteen. Just because Aeolian reminds me of classical music, heavily used in classical music, and the heavy metal and the neoclassical rock from the 80s use this a lot. And of course, Yngwie used heavily the harmonic minor, which is just the natural minor with a raised 7. Creating those diminished sounding arpeggios. And both of them were really famous for going back and forth on the neck pickup to the bridge pickup, which is something a lot of guitar players do if they're down on the lower strings on the lead pickup. As they climb the neck, they switch over to the neck pickup to kind of fatten up the sound of the strings, the thinner high strings. And vice versa. And of course, Eric Johnson's famous violin-like sound on his bridge pickup. Lots of distortion, and of course the gorgeous reverb and echo. You take just basic power chords on the 4th string, G, at the 5th fret, and the 5th, which would be D, at the 7th fret of the 3rd string, and then the octave on the 2nd string of the 8th fret. And sound with the pick and the 2nd finger and the ring finger. And incorporating like a 9 to the power chord, in this case a C power chord, and the 9 on top. We're going to do that. And taking a different type of power chord, in this case G on the 5th fret of the 4th string, and the octave G on the 1st string 3rd fret, and D, the 5th of the chord, on the 2nd string 3rd fret. And adding, he would add like the 6th of the chord, E, and then the 7th of the chord, major 7th, F sharp. Got a famous riff. Really nice stuff. Now when you take away a lot of the reverb and the echo and the saturation, get back to a little bit more basics, you get one of my favorites, Jeff Beck. When I first heard Jeff Beck coming out of the stereo speakers, I thought a dog was coming out to growl and bite me in the leg. Just those low growling tones in the lead pickup position. Just snapping the strings, getting the pinched harmonics with when he used a pick, or when he uses a pick with the edge of his thumb. That's the first time I heard that. Just, you know, literally using any finger in his hand. Whatever's there. Just the aggressiveness of his tone and his playing, and when he plays, he means it. I'm going to play the track and demonstrate some of that technique. World-renowned guitarist Eric Clapton just about single-handedly made famous this sound in the 70s. Fender Stratocaster lead pickup in conjunction with the middle pickup. Notched between the settings on the pickup selector, you'll find the famous out-of-phase sound. It's not quite like the lead, not quite like the middle. It's in between. Remember. Mixed with his fantastic vibrato. Nobody like him. A lot of bending in his style. It's a D minor pentatonic, and moving up to a from the 10th fret up to the 13th fret. Another place to play those notes. A lot of range out of there. And smooth transition from key to key. For instance, in the song Layla, it starts out in D minor, and he's playing D minor pentatonics in the 10th fret area, and he goes smoothly into C sharp minor, the next part of the song. There, by using a note from D minor, which is C, and a half-step bending to C sharp, which is the root of the new key. And you're ready to go in C sharp minor. Very smooth. I'm going to play the tracks and demonstrate some of these ideas for you. And continuing through the 70s, the sound of the Strat in this configuration could be heard on the radio all over the place. And in 1978, Dire Straits hit Mr. Mark Knopfler. Made that sound so famous again. His use of his fingers employed with triads was real prevalent in his style. Taking like a D minor 7th chord, or just a regular D minor, and moving it around the neck, and also in his solo playing, taking the notes from D minor and lining them up in arpeggios, and B flat maybe, the notes from B flat. mixed with his wonderful chordal style. Wonderful combination. I can't think of any other guitar that gets this sound. Buddy Holly, 1959. Many consider him the first star of the Stratocaster guitar. And he was a singer-songwriter. Bob Dylan in the 60s loved to play the Stratocaster. And it's just perfect complement for that style. Big open chords, strumming away, nice jangly sound in a sort of acoustic manner, using the middle pickup. Good selection, middle pickup. And with just a little bit of distortion, it's a nice big sound without getting too bright or too mellow. The neck and the middle pickup together. It's a similar sound to the bridge and middle pickup together. That's the bridge and middle, and this is same lick with these two. But it really comes alive on sparkly sounding chords. Maybe mixed in with a little bit of chorus. Kind of makes them shimmer. I'm going to play the track and demonstrate the sound. In 1954, when the Stratocaster came out, country music was really big, and that's what the guitar players like to use the vibrato system for, to emulate the steel guitar with the sliding into chords. Take a C chord here, triad, the 3rd fret, and maybe add the 9 for that sound, country, and scoop into it. Emulates the sound of the steel guitar in country and Hawaiian music at the time. And it was heavily used in surf music, of course. And you hear that same style today. But when Jimi Hendrix came out, boy, it was used in a different way, along with feedback, loud gain, the things he could do with this thing. Some of the things that Jimi Hendrix was doing was often just playing a note, and with just the tremendous gain and sometimes the wah-wah, just getting that right spot in the speakers to get the feedback, like so. Those crazy, crazy string dives. Now, a man who took this a step further, I would say, is Jeff Beck. He can play whole melodies with a vibrato, like so. You can hear Jeff take short melodic passages, like if you fingered this, but played it with the vibrato by holding the first note, diving down, back up again, and then up a half step to the next note, and back again. You'll have the man has incredible pitch, and you can just get those notes just perfect. And he'll mix harmonics with it too, like take a melody and play all those notes with harmonics and the bar. Great, great device. Stratocaster is like perfect instrument for the slide. You hear artists like Ry Cooder, Bonnie Raitt, Lowell George from Little Feat, and Roy Gallagher playing it with a bit of distortion. And I hear this setting a lot, the bridge in middle. And a great slide key is if you take your high E, drop it down to D, and your low E down to D also, and the A string down to G. And what you get with this tuning are the notes from a G chord. If you just strum from the 5th string, you get G, and then the regular D, G, B of a G chord, and then D on top. And the low note is the 5th of the chord, so you can actually play chords with your finger. Keith Richards uses this tuning a lot in singer-songwriters. Just move the chord around. I'm going to play it to track and demonstrate some licks. Well, I only scratched the surface of the many artists that the Fender Stratocaster helped make famous. If I missed yours, I'm really sorry about that. But I hope you had some fun with it, and I hope I brought some inspiration to you about the instrument, and I'll see you next time.